book, and you mentioned that you had this weird, freaky thing happen to you. You'd actually been to an exorcism.
Yeah.
To put it into context, you mentioned this happened in Singapore?
I go back every year to visit my mother, and this happened about maybe 15 years ago. We used to live in a 2-story house that had a courtyard, and I was in the bedroom that overlooks the courtyard, just chilling out. Mm-hmm. When I hear this wailing noise that sounds really, really creepy, then I hear a lot of women's voices as well.
That's creepy.
Obviously, I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? So I look out of the window, and one of my aunts looks like Linda Blair from The Exorcist. Apart from the fact that the head isn't spinning around.
Right.
Really?
And my mum, right, is holding her down.
Yeah.
Along with some of my aunties, and they're calling out Jesus, right, in Jesus' name, to drive this demon out, right?
Right.
And they're physically pressing her down to the ground.
Oh my word.
And crying and praying to God and calling out, invoking Jesus. And this thing went on for more than 5 minutes, and I'm just sitting there staring and thinking, what the fuck is going on?
No, that's the thing I don't really get. I mean, how was it they realised you were home, but they didn't invite you or give you any forewarning they were going to do this kind of freaky ceremony?
The house at the time was quite large.
Okay.
They were on the courtyard on the ground floor. I was on the first floor. They probably didn't realise I was at home at all.
Oh, right, I see. They thought, Norman's out.
Let's
get bang on this exorcism, yeah? We don't want to be disturbing. But I mean, they didn't, obviously, I guess they didn't invite you to join in because, you don't share their beliefs.
Being Catholic in Singapore, there's a lot of really superstitious stuff. They believe in Jesus, but they also believe in a whole host of other deities.
Yeah, sure.
So, if you can't go to the parish priest, you go to the witch doctor. And you can get a Malay one, you can get an Indian one, you can get a Chinese one, right? And Singapore's a multiracial country.
So takeaway.
So was there a priest there at the time, I assume?
No, this was it. Anyway, there wasn't a priest.
No.
Where I come from, yeah. Mm-hmm. There's several different communities. Every community has some sort of a superstitious kind of thing, right? And the Malays have what are known as bomos or witch doctors, yeah?
Okay.
And the kind of crazy thing is that a lot of the people who are like Christians believe in this stuff as well.
Yeah.
And, you can't, if you want a love potion, right, you can't go to the parish priest.
Really?
So,
I'm interested in the love potion. We could talk about that after the show. That sounds great.
So anyway, if you want something like that, you go to the witch doctor.
Yeah.
Mm.
They were literally trying to, they believed that she was possessed by at least one demon.
At least one, yeah? Sometimes it's more.
Yeah.
Sure.
According to my mum, my aunt had gone to this witch doctor.
Mm.
I don't know whether it was a love potion or what.
Yeah, after a love potion, I imagine.
Yeah. The thing is that if you want to curse somebody, right, you pay the witch doctor to do it.
Sweet.
There are people in Singapore who believe, right, that curses and love potions actually work. You just got to find the right witch doctor to do it for you.
I guess so. But I mean, your aunt, when you say she's possessed, I mean, was she like talking strangely or was she like, fire coming out of her mouth?
You're right, they were all speaking in voices. I think what I was told that she's going to see this witch doctor, so obviously she didn't want to get cursed, but for some reason the guy decided to be malicious.
Yeah.
And
it's always the way
possessed by some sort of demon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suspect that's why they didn't call the priest in, because they're too embarrassed to tell what had actually happened.
I guess, yeah. Priest will turn up and go, look at the mess you've made for me to clean up. Spiritually speaking.
In Singapore, whenever you buy anything major, you get the parish priest to bless it, which doesn't make any sense to me, but, it's kind of normal for
whenever you buy what?
Yeah, if you buy a car, for example, you get the parish priest to bless the car for you, right?
All right.
Wow.
That's like, does that count for insurance? Is that like...
It probably lowers insurance.
Did you ever talk to your aunt about this afterwards? Did you ever sort of ask her whether she was like, better or...
I called my mum once. I'll ask her next.
Yeah, please do. I mean, it's just fascinating, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, obviously we don't believe it, obviously,
hey,
but
Mom, did auntie so did she recover? Does she now have two good heads?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, has she ever relapsed? Does the demon and or demons ever come back? When you exorcise someone, is it just a closed door, or is it just like, or can they come back? I just don't know.
You're asking the wrong person.
Unfortunately, I'm asking you because it's your story. That's why I'm asking you.
Well, look, listen. it's one of those things where if I wasn't home, I would not have come across it. I didn't even know my mother practiced exorcism.
Well, I tell you what, I've got a different way to frame the question then. If you went home again, would you act differently?
Yeah, I would have got a camcorder record.
Yeah.
Just film it. Get your phone out. Yeah. That's helpful, mate.
Listen, man, I would put it on YouTube.
Chances are your aunt is having some form of epileptic fit and you get your phone out.
I mean, was it quite violent to see as well? I mean, what was the actual process they went through? Were they holding her down?
I don't want to hype it too much. She was definitely speaking in tongues.
Really?
I think I remember correctly, she was like shaking or shuddering, and all the aunts were like holding her down.
Were you aware of your auntie being ill before this actually happened? Like when you got there, did you know that she was in bed a bit under the weather, or did you just wake up one morning?
Well, you got to understand. I've got 15 aunties and 50 cousins.
Mm.
Yes, in Southeast Asia, families are huge.
Yeah,
yeah, sure.
If I hadn't stumbled on it by accident, I would have never realized this stuff still goes on. I mean, we're talking about what, the 1990s.
Yeah.
Wow. So basically, at the same time as Blur and Oasis were like kicking off and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm putting it in context for the people listening. So
that's helped out a lot.
Yeah,
Frank.
thanks. I
Cheers,
appreciate that. Yeah. So okay, Norman. So I mean, obviously your family's well now and it's all good, but this could happen again. The sort of people who deeply believe this stuff. And if another one of your many aunts was acting strangely or possessed, if you will, they would all latch onto her and do the same thing, just get straight on her and exercise her.
Listen, Frank, if this happens again, I'm getting my iPhone.
Yeah, totally, mate. Seriously, get your iPhone out, record it. Yeah, get involved. Do a selfie with you and the possessed person, and then make that your Facebook profile picture. I think that's what I do. Yeah. Listen, it's been fascinating talking to you. It really has. It's a wicked story, and I can say, I've never spoken to anyone who's witnessed an exorcism before. I only know them through movies, so it's been brilliant chatting to you.
Listen. I was happy to talk to you about it. It's quite a bizarre thing.
Thanks, Norman. That's really good of you.
So guys, I've got a dash.
All right.
Take care, mate.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Thanks, Norman.
Cheers, Norman. Bye.
No
So, okay, guys, that was Norman. What do we all think of that?
That was great. I'm just really impressed that we based a podcast around someone seeing someone out of a window.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's 15 years ago. So, it was interesting for me because, I've never heard anybody with a first-hand account of an exorcism. So it was interesting for me. Plus also that business with witch doctors. I like that as well. That was kind of interesting the way, even though they're Catholic, there's a whole like kind of extra component to it too. They're more like, I suppose we would call it paganistic. What's the difference between someone who's demonically possessed and someone who's just a dick? What actually is the difference?
If you're possessed, you speak in tongues. That's
is that it?
Yeah.
So dick plus tongue equals possession.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, okay. Fine, I get it now. So
it's pretty simple, Frank. He spelled it out for you.
The way he sort of I said so do you know how your aunt is like now? And he was like, I kind of like blocked it out, and I just thought the sheer embarrassment, like seeing your uncle dancing. Yeah. Just like, no, we don't actually. I don't actually really want to talk about.
We don't talk about that anymore.
My mum had an orgasm. I really, really do not wish to relive that moment or ask how she is.
Faith Healing, featuring James Randi.
Magical thinking, is a slippery slope. Sometimes it's harmless enough, but other times it's quite dangerous. Personally, I'm opposed to that kind of fakery, so I have no reservations at all about exposing these people and their illusions for what they really are.
Take this message to the world. It's the season of harvest.
During the 1980s, I entered a world that I found filled with fantasy and rife with abuse. The world of faith healing. I developed a special interest in a television evangelist named Peter Popoff.
And God told me, he said, you smite that cancer with your fist.
At the time, Popoff was pulling in nearly $4 million a year, healing people on his miracle crusades.
You've got cancer of the stomach? Are you ready for God to burn that cancer out?
To his followers, Popoff seemed to have divine powers. He knew their names.
Stand up, Alice.
As well as the afflictions they'd come to cure.
God is touching that thyroid condition right now.
I suspected that Popoff's revelations were other than divine, The radio scanner we brought to the hall picked up a decidedly worldly source.
Hello, Petey. Can you hear me? If you can't, you're in trouble.
John, is it...
Popoff was being prompted by his wife through a wireless earpiece.
John?
Deary Johnson.
She'd gotten her information from prayer cards filled out by the faithful before the show began.
She wants to get rid of the walker.
You want to get rid of this walker, sister?
I was able to arrange for another broadcast of the Miracle Crusade on The Tonight Show, but this time the wireless prompting was included. In 1987, Peter Popoff declared bankruptcy.
So, I mean, obviously YouTube has lots of videos of this kind of stuff, and as far as I can see, it's massively been debunked, but I don't think it matters because people who want to buy into this shit don't care about that. They're not really interested in the fact that it's been disproven. And what do you think?
They haven't spent any amount of time, as far as I can see, questioning it.
Can't we just call it the placebo effect? Can't we say it has a benefit because of that? Can't we just say people go along and they get something out of it?
Not if they choose not to go to a doctor afterwards. I'll probably take the cancer along to a doctor as well.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of these people are actually opting out of medical science?
A lot.
Aren't they just doing both? Aren't they just saying they're just hedging their bets? They're just like, well, I'm going to go for whatever I can get medically, but I'm also going to go along and see, Faith Healer X and, just get all my bases covered.
But there have been reports of people at these events like throwing their medication on the stage because they believe that at that moment they've been cured of whatever ailment.
Well, that's just silly, isn't it? I mean, you've got medication already.
But I know.
Well, take a bait. It's not going to hurt, is it? I mean, your medication isn't going to trump magic, is it? I mean, you're going to end up like, you might as well take the medication because it's meant to be God, right? It's like actually what they're actually doing by throwing their medicine away, saying, I don't want to affect what God's doing, right? Because he's not that powerful. These aspirin I've got here might actually just knock him off kilter a bit.
You put your phone on the plane.
Well, yeah. I mean,
the devil's aspirin.
The devil's aspirin. Right.
Maybe, we're all comedians. I mean, maybe we could do kind of faith comedy workshops where we make people funny by believing.
By the power of Bill Hicks, I command you.
Yeah, you are funny now.
Just to cure unfunny comedians that aren't doing too well on the circuit.
You can imagine.
Maybe we could run that on Saturdays outside Dirty Dicks.
But I could, just start doing it as a set.
Yeah, maybe you should. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
Just make sure that you go on in the second half of the night.
Yeah.
Call out all the people who
died on their asses
on the first half, and just start some rituals.
By the power of Richard Pryor, I command thee, be funny.
You are funny now.
Calling Mary Fielding.
Hello.
Hi, is that Mary?
Yes.
Hi, Mary. This is Frank Cassidy and the Sunday Spit Roast team. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
You're in the room with Damien Kingsley.
Hello, Mary.
And also Charlie Stanton.
Hello.
So really, what we're doing today, really, Mary, is we're just talking about sort of supernatural things, paranormal, just having sort of some fun around the subject. The three of us aren't sort of spiritually based. We're all sort of atheists and all that. But we'd be very fascinated to hear from you about what it's like to be a psychic and how long you've been like that and how it's worked out for you.
Well, I obviously was a psychic right from the word go. But of course, you don't, when you're 6 months old, you don't know that there's something called a psychic. But it's like, as a small child, I could, whenever I shut my eyes, I would see colours twirling, like you do when you look down a kaleidoscope.
Okay.
They would be like that, and every single night I'd go to sleep looking at the colours. And then when I chose to listen, I would hear music, which people have since, I've tried sort of classical type, somebody said it was like Radio 4 music.
Yeah.
And I tried to describe the music, there's nothing jazzy about it. But whenever I could hear it if I chose to listen at any point.
Right.
But it didn't, interfere with my life.
Okay.
I used to listen to it in bed. And I remember when I was 7, having moved house, thinking that when I listened, I could no longer hear the music. And after a while, I think I asked somebody, and then I discovered other people didn't hear music in their ears.
Right.
I thought everybody did. And my mother later related stories like she'd be taking me for a walk